Some of my choices might not be very correct or political correct, but that's how I am. I'm a rebel.
I've got a rebel soul. I've got a rebel soul.
My first statement in this video might surprise you. You can live off-grid in almost anything. And off-grid living in my head does not necessarily mean on a boat, at least if sustainable and self-sufficient is your priorities. Some of the rules would still be the same, like needing shelter, water and food. And of course some sort of energy, not only for your basic needs, but also for your level of luxury. Since I'm not a farmer but a sailor, I can only share qualified experience and thoughts living off-grid close to the water or on a boat. The bigger the boat, the bigger investments needed to increase your off-grid capacity. At the same time, this will distance you even more from being self-sufficient and even make sustainable living harder, if not even impossible. Be Free is a big boat, meaning there is lots of power consumption. She is also quite a luxurious boat to live aboard, even without lithium batteries and much less use of generator than you might think. Some would say a mass production yacht is not suitable for living off-grid, especially not for longer period of time. As this is among my most frequent asked questions, I'm gonna try to point you in some directions. It's a huge difference in being self-sufficient and having an off-grid capacity. And how your off-grid capacity is provided can be debated and have several levels of partly self-sufficiency. Even though this time will be limited by one of several factors, it still could be more than sufficient. So if any mass production yacht is suitable could be partly true, but also partly false. It depends how you look at this. And if even a boat could qualify to off-grid lifestyle at all. No matter what, it would need some upgrades. And as a fun fact, my experience, the solar panels was more effective in the Mediterranean than in the Caribbean. Without being an expert, it could be due to lower temperature when I was there, as most solar lose energy about 20-something degrees. However, depending on which latitude you find yourself and time of year, it can be everything from either dark or light 24/7. So this will also dictate your options in energy source. Meaning a perfect setup for the Caribbean could be totally useless in the northern or more southern latitudes, with extreme changes in not only hours of daylight but also in temperature. Living on a boat will always mean implications, and unlimited stay is something to look away from. You will always end of the day face some challenges in terms of maintenance, among several other factors. This will limit your time frame. So time frame and locations are important factors to consider. It's tempting to say you have higher chance to succeed with your off-grid living in something like this, as maintenance could mainly be based on what you find around you, especially if a long-term off-grid life away from civilization on a more permanent base is your dream. Off-grid living on a boat will therefore have its limitations, being a more nomadic off-grid lifestyle and of course give more adventures. And this is what I've been playing around with, trying to find some answers to share with you. So is 6 to 12 months off-grid capacity enough? That's one of the questions I've been asking myself for the last 2 years. In one of my older videos I said you can cross oceans in almost anything. And I still stand behind this statement. If you're only gonna follow the trade winds into the sunset, you can do it in almost anything. And it's even possible to do this on business class. This is also valid for off-grid living, if boat is your choice. It does not have to be luxury and expensive. If you can cross oceans in almost anything, you can live off-grid in almost anything as well. In today's world, I guess we are many that would love to be capable living off-grid, 100% self-sufficient. But is this even realistic? I would say it's possible, but it might send you a few steps down the ladder in terms of comfort and luxury. I'm not totally there, even though I know how to catch rainwater, fish and a few other things. I believe the bigger boat you have, the more luxury on board. So it's time to explain how I see things, illustrated with my luxury ladder. The higher you climb, the greater distance from being sustainable and even self-sufficient. Your level of self-sufficiency affects your off-grid capacity, which obviously will cost you more money the higher up and the bigger boat. So even adding solar and lots of electronics to maintain your lifestyle off-grid, you also leave footprints on the dark side here. I will explain more further out. It will be more about how much you put into this, compared to the extent off-grid time you will win. And sustainable living is definitely to be debated on a boat. So here I have my full-size laundry machine. My argument was without dryer I can run it by solar power via my batteries and inverter. So in the perfect world it would be a combination of washer and dryer. This would solve the challenge with drying when it rains or when it sometimes is very humid. But it also generates a new challenge with power consumption. I'm talking a lot about washing machine now, but it's a brilliant example. I can run my washing machine off solar power, because even with only 3 solar panels I normally receive more power than I need. With more than 4 kilowatts coming in on a good day, it could be tempting to believe I'm now self-sufficient, even with this kind of luxury on board. But here's something destroying this beautiful picture. Washing machine consumes lots of water, so a water maker is now mandatory. Water heater is not critical, but it makes a difference. So the more luxury, the bigger investment to increase your off-grid capacity. So on my boat, 4 kilowatt in from solar with only 850 amp dedicated household batteries, it's still not even close to handle all the luxury on board. So you could say my off-grid capacity is depending a lot on a bit old school energy sources, and definitely not self-sufficient, and even further from sustainable. However, if I climb down a few steps on my luxury ladder, I really don't need much more power than the sun gives me. But there is no such a thing as a free lunch. The pollution of making these panels are interesting, and so is future recirculation, as it's yet not even tested in large scale. So I have already left my footprints here, proving my theory: the higher up the ladder, the further away from sustainable, even though it makes me feel I'm doing the right thing. No matter how much or little luxury you want, finding your off-grid capacity is important, but also your backup solutions. Hot showers, laundry, microwave and ice maker, end of the days, this is just luxury and not necessary things. One of the things I definitely can manage without is my dishwasher. It's supposed to be very efficient in water consumption, but this I have never measured. However, if I had lithium batteries, I might use it more. As for now, I have to be connected to either shore power in the marina or run my generator. So if investing in lithiums and more solar energy, I will be able to maintain higher level of luxury. But most important, replacing diesel or petrol for making drinking water, and even reducing propane for making food on board. I will share my conceptions further out here. The thing with batteries, even if it's lead acid or gel or lithium batteries, end of the day they still need to be recharged. And as the cliche, it's not always sunshine. That's actually how it is in real life. The higher level of luxury, the more energy is needed. And it should not come as a surprise: the more things you have, the more can fail. At least on a boat.
Yes, it works! Success!
So if this was a battle, even the most expensive and advanced setup could lose against a dugout canoe, only carrying a rain catcher and a fishing lure. So with this in mind, I have changed my focus a bit. It's more about being capable living off-grid, and for how long is acceptable as a good solution. Is it possible to stretch this off-grid time, and how much would I gain compared to what I put in? To me, this is essential questions. So for a long-term off-grid living, my dear friend Holly from Wind Hippie Sailing have proven several of my points here. Keep it simple and have less trouble. Living on a boat, your water production or capability is gonna limit your off-grid capacity. So after a long-lasting experiment, I know for sure, without the water maker, my water capacity lasts for 3 months. But remember, that's only me alone. With friends staying over, it's significantly lower, meaning 3 months is my limit if either my water maker or my power source should fail. You could also be free as the bird without all this technology, if you learn how to collect rainwater. It do work, but it's not as reliable as having your own water production, but at least it's nice to know about. I bought this one as a backup, and it's actually a really good generator. It's portable, Honda, and it has for sure done its job. As a big contrast to what you might see on YouTube, most sailors I have met are depending on a portable generator for their water production. This is actually more the rule than the exception. So in real life, my off-grid capacity for drinking water is now increased from 3 months to unlimited, as long it works and I have fuel. That's why I have a backup solution. And as a fun fact, even the people living here had the same as backup to their solar. And I don't need a generator that often, but I need it for my water production, and also when it's gray or been raining for a few days, I start to run low, I need to top off my batteries. And if I have to top off my batteries, I always make water at the same time. So to put things in a perspective, I made a little calculation to show you my numbers. My 8 kilowatt diesel generator only used 0.25 gallon an hour, because it's so little load running my 1.2 kilowatt water maker. So the yearly consumption is less than 39 gallons or 147 liter diesel. The benefit is I barely need to carry any jerry cans, but I choose to illustrate the volume anyway. My backup solution runs on petrol and consumes 0.27 gallon an hour, giving me a yearly consumption of 42 gallons or 159 liters if this was my only option. The consumption is higher because of being close to max load over time. This means I can easily stretch out my off-grid capacity to 12 months or even more. That's why I invested so much time getting my diesel generator up and running again. Replacing 6 to 8 kilowatt with batteries when needed is quite a project, and would set me back more than 20,000 euros in solar, lithium and bigger inverters and much more. You could also face different needs outside of tropical waters.
Good job.
Food capacity is also an interesting exercise when living off-grid, and depending on how remote you're gonna stay, you might need to be prepared for quite a long time. I have already shared my mistakes and experience on this topic in the previous episode. At least I cannot survive only on fishing, so I carry lots of dry food and canned food as well. But I have some mixed experience here trying to reach my 1 year goal. At least I don't think this is leaking, it's still, but it would not be a long time before this will also make a problem. Depending on how advanced your cooking is, and again, level of luxury, you will need some energy to prepare your meals or even heating up water for your coffee. If this is a lot or somewhere between for 1 year, I don't know, but this is my numbers. In my head, here is one of the strongest arguments for investing in lithium. You can convert to induction and no longer worry about having enough propane. So I guess one of my future upgrades will go in that direction.
And no new vessels arriving from international waters might be allowed to come in.
If you look away from my experience from the last 2 years, the normal situation and reality is different, and you might not even need a capacity of more than 2 months and still be on the safe side. Unless you're planning on living more permanently on a fixed location, still a bit off-grid yet possible to get things, this is the reality under normal conditions. You could define it more as a nomadic off-grid lifestyle, meaning you're almost constant on the move. If it then qualifies for off-grid lifestyle is to be debated as well, but the facilities on board and the challenges could be more or less the same. Even just hanging on anchor in a beautiful location with lots of other liveaboards. Again, to put things in a perspective, crossing the Atlantic takes between 2 and 3 weeks, and the Pacific between 3 and 4 weeks. And being in the middle of the Pacific, I would say it's almost as far away from anything you can get. Meaning you would reach your new location within a pretty easy calculated time. And again, you will be able to top up with food, water and energy like propane, petrol or diesel. And normally your passport and the nation you visit will also limiting your stay, often between 3 to 6 months. So if your boat could reach these requirements, you can cross oceans and even live off-grid in almost anything.
And then I guess it's not much more to say than stay safe, stay healthy, and all the best. Cheers.